The sun rose over the mountains, painting the peaks in gold and pink. Kale stirred first, alert as always. He had slept lightly, knowing the dangers of Clera Prime. Lyra lay nearby, still asleep, her soft breathing rising and falling like a quiet rhythm in the harsh mountain air. Kale scanned the horizon with his sharp eyes. The slopes were quiet, the snow undisturbed. For a moment he allowed himself to hope that perhaps they had escaped. But Kyle knew better. He had seen danger come suddenly without warning. His parents had been taken in such a way, and he had survived only by being clever and fast. He rose, careful not to disturb Lyra, and checked the paths they had come from. Tracks in the snow caught his attention immediately. Not ordinary tracks. They were too large, too uniform, and the marks of weapons or claws were faintly visible. Kyle's heart tightened. 30. He could tell by the spacing and pattern that a group had followed them. Not a small hunting party, but a raiding force. His mind raced. He needed to protect Lyra, and he needed a plan. He shook Lyra gently. "Wake up," he whispered. "We have company." Lyra's eyes snapped open, glowing faintly in the morning light. She understood immediately. Her hands went to the small weapons she carried, but she looked at Kale, uncertain. He shook his head. "No, we use the mountains. We can fight smart, not head-on. Trust me." She nodded, her face pale but determined. They packed quickly, gathering the minimal supplies they carried. Kale led her to a narrow ridge, one he knew well. Below, the valley opened up, perfect for ambushes and traps. He explained his plan briefly. Use the terrain to reduce the raiders' numbers, force them into narrow paths, and give themselves a chance to escape or fight efficiently. The raiders arrived sooner than Kale expected. 30 strong, armored and armed with strange glowing weapons that hummed in the air. They spread out across the valley, scanning for movement. Kale ducked behind a rock, holding Lyra close. He could feel her pulse against his chest, fast and frightened. He whispered, "Stay calm. Follow my lead." They waited until the raiders were directly below. Kale had chosen his path carefully. A narrow ledge curved around the cliff, just wide enough for one raider at a time. He had dug small pits and covered them lightly with snow, ready to trap any who stepped unwittingly. He had also broken loose some rocks above, prepared to roll them down with precision. The first raider stepped onto the ledge. Kale triggered a small trap, and the raider stumbled, falling into a hidden pit. The others turned, growling in their alien language. Kale rolled a rock down, striking another raider and forcing the group to tighten together. Lyra watched in awe. She had never seen anyone fight like this, using brains and terrain instead of brute force. One raider tried to flank them, moving up the cliff from the other side. Kale anticipated it. He whispered to Lyra, "Cover your eyes." She obeyed, pressing herself into the rock. Kale threw another rock, striking the raider and sending him tumbling back down the slope. The others hesitated, confused and angry. Kale and Lyra moved carefully along the ridge, using the traps they had prepared. It was a deadly game of cat and mouse. The raiders were skilled, but they underestimated the boy. Every time they advanced, Kale found a way to use the mountains against them. Avalanches, falling rocks, narrow ledges all became weapons in his hands. At one point, a raider spotted Lyra and lunged forward. Kale stepped in front, blocking the attack with a long, sturdy branch he had sharpened. The raider was stronger, but Kale was faster. He sidestepped, striking the raider's leg and forcing him back. Lyra watched, a mixture of fear and admiration on her face. "You're amazing," she whispered, even as she kept her own senses alert. Kyle shook his head. "We survive. That's all that matters." The battle continued for hours. Kale's traps and clever maneuvers had reduced the raiders' numbers. They had lost several to avalanches and hidden pits. Kale noticed the fatigue in the remaining enemies. They were strong, but they were not accustomed to fighting in such terrain, not against someone who knew every path, every ledge, every hidden danger. Lyra's role became crucial as well. Her alien senses allowed her to detect movements Kale could not see. She warned him of approaching raiders, pointed out weak spots in their formations, and even assisted in subtle ways, using small tools and clever distractions to unbalance them. Kale realized that together they were a force to be reckoned with, each complementing the other's skills. The raiders regrouped, forming a tight cluster to try and trap Kale. He studied them, thinking fast. He spotted a loose rock formation above. With a careful push, he sent a small avalanche down, striking several raiders at once. The others panicked, retreating slightly. Kale seized the moment, leading Lyra down a hidden path that twisted sharply, confusing the attackers. One raider, larger and more aggressive than the others, pursued them directly. Kale led him to a narrow ledge over a deep chasm. The raider lunged, but Kale stepped aside, using the raider's momentum against him. With a final push, the raider lost his balance, crashing down into the depths below. Kale and Lyra continued moving, hearts racing but determined. By midday, the raiders were reduced to a handful, battered and wary. Kale and Lyra reached a plateau, safe for the moment. They collapsed against a rock, breathing heavily. Lyra looked at Kale, eyes wide. You're human?" she asked, a mixture of disbelief and awe in her voice. Kale nodded, brushing snow from his hair. "Yes, and humans can survive anything if they use their minds. That's how I've lived all my life." Lyra looked down, processing the truth in his words. Her people had always considered humans weak, fragile. She had never imagined one could fight and outsmart 30 raiders in a mountain they did not even know. Kale rested for a moment, then stood. "We can't stop here. They might regroup. We need to move, find safer ground." Lyra followed, more confident now. She mirrored Kale's movements, staying alert, trusting him completely. Their journey continued through hidden paths, over icy streams and around jagged cliffs. Every step required attention. Every movement could mean life or death. But together they moved faster, safer, and more decisively than Kale had ever imagined possible. As they approached a forested valley, the terrain began to change. Trees offered cover, shadows gave them safety, and the snow became less thick. Kale knew that this was their chance to put real distance between themselves and the remaining raiders. He paused briefly, scanning the horizon. No signs of pursuit yet. Kale turned to Lyra. "We're almost there. But remember, the mountains will always be dangerous. You need to trust yourself, too. You have skills, don't be afraid to use them." Lyra nodded. She had learned quickly, observing Kale, copying his strategies and trusting her instincts. I will try," she said softly. They moved together, navigating the trees and uneven ground. The remaining raiders were somewhere behind, but Kale knew they would think twice before chasing further after seeing their losses. The mountains had favored the clever and brave, and Kyle was both. By evening, they reached a hidden glade, a small natural clearing surrounded by dense forest. Kale set up a temporary camp. Lyra helped gather firewood, her confidence growing. They shared a simple meal, exhausted but triumphant. For the first time in days, they felt a glimmer of safety, if only temporary. As they sat by the fire, Kale spoke quietly. "You see, Lyra, it's not just strength that matters. It's thinking, planning, using what you have to survive. Humans have always survived even when everything seems lost. That's why we endure." Lyra looked at him, understanding dawning in her glowing eyes. "I understand now. You are strong because you are human, not because you are bigger or faster. Your mind, your heart, that is your weapon." Kale smiled faintly, humbled by her words. "Exactly. And you've learned that too. You were brave today, and you helped more than you know." Night fell. The forest quiet except for the crackling fire and distant howls of unknown creatures. Kale and Lyra rested, knowing that tomorrow would bring more challenges, but confident in their growing bond and their ability to survive together. In the heart of the alien wilderness, an orphan human boy and a fleeing alien girl had faced overwhelming odds, outsmarted 30 raiders, and proven that courage, intelligence, and trust could overcome even the greatest dangers. The mountains had tested them, but they had prevailed, stronger and closer than ever. As the stars shone above, Kale and Lyra looked at each other, unspoken understanding passing between them. They were no longer just survivors. They were a team, a force to be reckoned with, and nothing, not the mountains, not the raiders, not the unknown, could break their will. Ethan moved carefully through the dense alien forest, his boots sinking slightly into the mossy ground. The air was thick with the scent of strange plants, sweet and bitter at the same time. Colors shifted around him, leaves that shimmered with silver, flowers that glowed faintly in the shade, and vines that writhed as if they had their own will. He kept his eyes and ears sharp, knowing that this planet was full of dangers he could not always see. He was alone today, as he often was. His team had chosen to stay back at the base while he explored a promising sector near a cliffside. Ethan liked the quiet, liked the challenge. But as he followed a narrow path lined with luminous mushrooms, he heard a soft, unusual sound. It was a cry. a low, almost human-like wail, but tinged with pain and fear. Ethan froze, scanning the area. He had learned early on that sound could mean danger, but it could also mean someone needed help. He followed the noise carefully, moving slowly, hands ready for his survival tools. The cries grew louder, more desperate, leading him to the edge of a steep ravine. There, sprawled awkwardly on the ground, was an alien. It had blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the light and eyes that glowed faintly like distant stars. Its limbs were long and lean, ending in sharp claw-like fingers, but despite its intimidating appearance, the alien was clearly in pain. One of its legs was bent at an unnatural angle, and it tried to crawl forward, making small hissing sounds with each movement. Ethan's first instinct was caution. He had faced wild creatures before, and this one could be deadly. But as he looked into its eyes, he saw something else: fear, vulnerability, and a quiet plea for help. He took a deep breath and stepped closer. "Hey," he said softly, keeping his voice calm. "I'm not going to hurt you. Can you need some water?" The alien froze, its glowing eyes narrowing. It hissed again, louder this time, a warning Ethan understood. He didn't move closer but knelt a few feet away, pulling a small water container from his pack. Carefully, he poured some water into a shallow leaf and extended it toward the creature. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, the alien reached out with one claw, dipped it into the water, and drank. Ethan waited, breathing steadily, letting the alien gain confidence. Once it had finished, he spoke again. "I can help you," he said. "I have tools. I can fix that leg, or at least make it better so you can move." The alien tilted its head, studying him as if trying to understand his words. Then it shifted slightly, letting Ethan get closer. He gently examined the injured leg, careful not to cause more pain. He found a support vine and wrapped it carefully around the alien's leg, stabilizing it. He made a small splint with a stiff branch from nearby and secured it with strips of cloth from his pack. "It's not perfect, but it will hold," Ethan said. "You'll be able to move without hurting yourself as much." The alien didn't respond with words. Instead, it studied Ethan's face, its glowing eyes softening. For the first time, Ethan noticed the intricate markings on its skin, lines and dots that seemed almost like tattoos. They shimmered faintly in the alien light, revealing some kind of cultural or tribal pattern. Ethan guessed that this creature belonged to a structured community, maybe even a powerful one. "Don't worry," he said. "I won't leave you here. You'll be okay." The alien made a soft, almost musical sound and leaned slightly against Ethan, allowing him to lift it gently. He moved carefully, feeling the weight of the creature and the rhythm of its breathing. The forest around them seemed alive, eyes watching from the shadows, but nothing dared approach while Ethan held the alien. By the time they reached a safer clearing, the sun was dipping low, casting the alien forest in shades of purple and gold. Ethan set the creature down near a cluster of glowing plants and built a small fire, using his skills to keep the flames controlled. The alien stayed close but did not approach the fire directly. It seemed curious about Ethan's tools and gestures, watching every movement carefully. "You need food," Ethan said, breaking a protein bar into small pieces and placing them near the alien. "You can eat it if you want. I won't take it from you." The alien sniffed the food, then took a small piece carefully, examining it as it chewed. Ethan smiled. It was a start. As night fell, the forest changed. Strange sounds echoed around them: low growls, the rustle of unseen creatures, and the whisper of the wind through alien leaves. Ethan kept a careful watch, understanding that this planet was not forgiving. But something about the alien calmed him. There was a bond forming, one that went beyond species, beyond fear. It was trust, fragile and new. Hours passed. The alien rested near the fire, and Ethan kept talking, even if it didn't understand his words. He told it about Earth, about his work, and about the reason he explored planets like this. The alien tilted its head, its glowing eyes reflecting the firelight as if listening. Eventually, Ethan realized he needed to rest. He set up a small sleeping area a few feet from the alien, keeping one hand on his tools just in case. Sleep came slowly, and his dreams were filled with visions of the alien tribe. Strange, majestic beings riding enormous tigers, their eyes filled with intelligence and strength. Ethan woke often, half expecting to see them in the clearing, but there was only silence and the soft breathing of the alien beside him. The next morning, Ethan woke to find the alien sitting upright, examining him. Its leg looked stronger, supported by the makeshift splint. It made a soft sound, almost like a greeting. Ethan smiled, feeling a mixture of relief and curiosity. "Good morning," he said. "Feeling better?" The alien tilted its head, then made a series of melodic sounds. Ethan didn't understand the language, but the tone was clear, acknowledgement and perhaps gratitude. He offered more water, which it accepted without hesitation. Ethan packed up his supplies, preparing to leave. He wanted to continue his exploration, but he couldn't leave the creature here alone. He considered taking it with him, but he didn't know how it would respond, or if it could survive the trip. Then, before he could decide, the alien did something unexpected. It reached out a claw and gently touched his hand. The touch was light, almost a brush, but it carried weight, trust, respect, and a silent promise. Ethan froze, understanding the significance. He had made a choice to help, and now the alien was acknowledging it in a way humans rarely received. Suddenly, a distant roar echoed through the forest. Ethan's heart raced. The sound was deep, powerful, and unmistakable. Somewhere nearby, a predator, or perhaps something larger, was approaching. The alien's glowing eyes widened, and it made a low warning sound. Ethan didn't panic. He had faced dangers before, but this was different. The roar was not just a threat, it was a signal. He glanced around, noticing movement in the shadows, huge shapes moving with precision, almost like they were watching him. The alien stood, unsteady, but determined. It made more melodic sounds, then ran a few steps toward the noise. Ethan followed cautiously, unsure what would happen. Through the trees he saw them, tigers, enormous and armored, with riders atop them. The riders were alien, like the creature he had helped, but stronger, taller, and commanding. Their eyes glowed, and their movements were synchronized like a single living force. Ethan froze, realizing that this was no ordinary alien group. This was a tribe, and they were coming for him, but not with aggression. Their first rider, the alien he had helped, waved him forward with a gesture that was both commanding and welcoming. Ethan's heart raced. He had expected danger, but what he felt now was something else: respect, curiosity, and perhaps an invitation. By helping one of their own, he had changed everything. He had earned the attention of an entire tribe, and they were here to see him. The lead rider spoke in clicks and melodic tones, the alien language flowing like music. Ethan didn't understand the words, but the meaning was clear through gestures and tone. They were acknowledging him, honoring him, and offering something he could not yet grasp. As the sun rose higher, painting the alien forest in gold, Ethan realized that his life had changed forever. The planet, the tribe, and the creature he had helped were now part of his journey. He was no longer a lone explorer. He was a guest and perhaps a hero in a world far stranger and more beautiful than he had ever imagined. He looked at the alien he had saved. Its eyes met his, and for a moment the forest seemed to hold its breath. Then the creature gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. Ethan knew what this meant. The next part of his journey was about to begin, and nothing would ever be the same.